I wasn't planning to sleep.
Stay awake. Who are you?
The event coordinator.
He was the most feared man in 3 cities. But when they touched her, fear finally found him.
Get off me!
Hana, I'm coming! Are you okay?
I'm okay.
She thought the 7 blades were the end of it. But in Sung Jun's world, saving a powerful man only made her the next target.
7 blades. That was the number they counted afterward, pressing cloth against her skin while the marble floor of the obsidian hall swallowed her blood in slow, dark circles. She hadn't screamed, not once. She had simply stepped in front of a man who had never once looked at her like she mattered, and taken what was meant to kill him. He had stood there, unharmed, watching her fall, and something inside Han Sung-jun, the most feared man in 3 cities, broke open like a wound that had been waiting decades for a reason. He didn't know her name yet. He didn't know her face beyond the blur of her falling. But he knew, with the cold certainty of a man who had survived every kind of war, that his life had just been divided into 2 parts, before her and after. If this story already has you, you're exactly where you belong. Welcome to Afro-Korean love drama, where love is never safe and loyalty costs everything. Her name was Hana. She had been in Seoul for 11 months, working as a private event coordinator for the Jinhee Group, a hospitality company that rented out its grandest halls to clients whose names never appeared in newspapers. She knew better than to ask questions. She had learned that silence was the currency of survival in rooms like these, rooms draped in black silk and filled with men whose smiles never reached their eyes. The Obsidian Hall event was supposed to be a diplomatic dinner, a formal gathering of 5 of Seoul's most powerful underground families, seated around a table the length of a runway, toasting to agreements that would never be written down. Hana's job was simple: manage the floor staff, ensure the wine was correct, ensure no one waited more than 40 seconds for anything, and, above all, remain invisible. She was good at invisible things. She had arrived early that evening, as she always did, wearing her standard black coordinator's uniform, her locks pinned back with precision, her clipboard tucked under her arm. She had checked every place setting, every glass, every floral arrangement. She had spoken quietly to the kitchen, confirmed the timeline with the head waiter, and positioned herself at the far left wall where she could see the entire room without being seen. That was where she first noticed him. Han Sung-jun arrived last. That was intentional. She would understand later that he always arrived last, that it was a statement of dominance so practiced it had become reflex. He wore a charcoal suit that had been made for his body and no one else's. He was tall for a Korean man, with the kind of stillness about him that made the air in a room rearrange itself. His jaw was sharp. His eyes were sharper. He scanned the hall the way a soldier scans a battlefield, quickly, quietly, missing nothing. His gaze passed over Hana without pausing. She exhaled. The dinner began. She moved through the room like a shadow, refilling glasses before they were empty, redirecting staff with small hand signals, keeping everything smooth and silent. She was 3 tables from the main seating arrangement when she heard the sound. Not loud, not dramatic, just a small, wrong sound beneath the music. A scrape, a whisper of movement where there should have been none. She turned. The man with the blades had come from the kitchen corridor. He moved fast, too fast, cutting through the space between the tables with the precision of someone who had planned this for a long time. His target was clear. Every blade in his hand was aimed at the man at the head of the table. Han Sung-jun, who was mid-sentence, not yet aware, his attention on the man beside him. Hana did not think. She moved. Later she would not be able to explain it. Not to the doctors, not to herself. She had no reason to protect him. She did not know him. She owed him nothing. But her body had moved before her mind could argue, stepping directly into the path of a man who was already swinging. The first blade caught her left side. The second, her right forearm as she raised it. The third across her shoulder. She fought, hard, using her elbow, her knee, buying seconds, and when the security team finally descended, blades 4 through 7 had already found her. The attacker went down in seconds beneath 4 of Sung-jun's men. Hana went down slower. She heard the noise of the room rising around her. Chairs scraping, voices overlapping, someone shouting orders in Korean she couldn't fully parse. The marble was cold against her cheek. She focused on that coldness. It was clean. Simple. She could hold on to it. Then a shadow fell over her. She looked up and found Han Sung-jun crouched beside her on the floor of his own hall, his charcoal suit jacket already off and pressed against the worst of her wounds, his hands steady and sure, his eyes, those sharp soldier's eyes, looking at her with an expression she couldn't name. Not gratitude. Too raw for gratitude. Not a shock. Too controlled for shock. Something older than both. Something that looked, against all reason, like recognition. "Stay awake," he said. His voice was low and even. A command, not a plea. Hana almost smiled. "I wasn't planning to sleep," she managed. He didn't smile back. He pressed harder against the wound. His jaw was tight. His eyes hadn't moved from her face. "Who are you?" he said. "The event coordinator," she said. "Your fish course is going to be cold." He said nothing for a moment. Around them, his men were clearing the room, moving the other guests, shouting into phones. None of it seemed to reach him. He stayed where he was, on the floor, beside her, until the paramedics arrived. He didn't let go until they made him. She woke in a private hospital room that smelled of gardenias. That was her first thought. Gardenias, not antiseptic. Which meant someone had placed flowers there deliberately. She turned her head slowly. A bouquet of white gardenias sat on the bedside table beside a glass of water and a small note written in precise masculine handwriting. "You have nothing to worry about. Everything has been handled. Rest. No name." She stared at the ceiling for a long time. Her body catalogued its damage. 7 sutured wounds of varying severity, 2 of which had required surgery during the night. Her left arm was bandaged heavily. Her side ached with every breath. But she was alive, which was more than the mathematics of last night had promised her. A nurse appeared, gentle, efficient, apologetic about her Korean speed, and explained that she had been brought to the Hansung Private Medical Center, that her treatment had been fully covered, and that she was free to leave when she was ready, but there was no hurry. "Who authorized my admission?" Hana asked. The nurse smiled carefully. "A private patron, ma'am." Hana looked at the gardenias again. The next morning, she received a visit she hadn't requested. The door to her room opened and a woman entered. Slim, impeccably dressed, with the posture of someone who had spent years managing power from a slight distance. She introduced herself as Park Soo-yeon, personal secretary to Han Sung-jun. "He would like to see you," Soo-yeon said. "When you are well enough, there is no pressure." "He could come here," Hana said. Soo-yeon's expression flickered. Not quite a smile, not quite a surprise. He offered. "You were unconscious." Hana looked at her bandaged arm. "Tell him I'll let him know." Soo-yeon nodded once and left. Hana spent 2 more days in the hospital. On the first day, a wardrobe arrived. Her size, her style, nothing extravagant but everything correct. Comfortable clothes for recovery, a few more formal pieces, shoes she didn't ask for. On the second day, her favorite food appeared on her lunch tray, despite having told no one what it was. She stared at the jollof rice and fried plantain and felt the first real stirring of unease. He had done his research. Quietly, efficiently, without announcement. She didn't know yet whether that was kindness or surveillance. She called Soo-yeon on the 3rd morning. The meeting was arranged for that afternoon at a penthouse office in the Sayajin Tower, 42 floors above the city, above the noise, above the rules that governed lesser men. Hana wore one of the pieces from the wardrobe he had sent, because her own clothes were still at the event hall, and she refused to arrive looking diminished. She chose a deep burgundy wrap dress and left her locks down for the first time in weeks. She walked into his office like she owned the floor. Han Sung-jun was standing at the window when she entered. He turned when the door opened, and for a moment neither of them moved. He looked different in daylight. Still formidable, still controlled. But there were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there before. She filed that away. "You look well," he said. "I've had better weeks," she said. He gestured to a chair. She sat. He sat across from her, no desk between them, which she noted. A deliberate choice. "I owe you my life," he said. Not a preamble. Not pleasantries. "You owe me nothing," she said. "I didn't do it for you." He studied her for a moment. Then why? She considered the question honestly. I don't know yet. I'll let you know when I figure it out. Something shifted in his expression, brief, controlled, but real. You're not afraid of me. I've had 7 blades in me in the last 72 hours. My fear threshold is currently very high. He almost smiled. Almost. He offered her a formal arrangement. Compensation for her injuries, a new position within his private staff if she wanted it, better pay, better security, and his personal guarantee of her safety going forward, since whoever had sent the assassin might view her as a loose end. She was, after all, a witness. And if I don't want the position, she asked. Then the compensation stands regardless, he said. And the security, you don't have a choice about security. She raised an eyebrow. Someone tried to kill me in your presence, he said. That puts you in my world whether you want to be there or not. I take responsibility for that. She looked at him for a long moment. This man who had spent his life building walls out of silence and power, who was now sitting across from her with his jacket off and his sleeves rolled and something uncharacteristically direct in his eyes. I'll think about the position, she said. Take your time, he said, and then, quieter. The gardenias? Your intake form listed them as your preferred flower. I hope that was acceptable. Hannah looked at him. You read my intake form. I read everything relevant to people in my care. She filed that away too. She took the position. It was a practical decision, she told herself. The money was significant. The security was real. She had already noticed, on her way back from the hospital, the 2 men who had followed her at a careful distance, clean and professional and entirely impossible to shake. If she was already being protected, she may as well be paid. Her role was officially titled Private Event and Logistics Director for the Han Group's Legitimate Hospitality Division. In practice, she managed the scheduling and coordination of gatherings that ranged from perfectly ordinary corporate dinners to meetings she was again trained not to ask about. She was good at the work. She had always been good at work. What she hadn't anticipated was how often the work put her in his orbit. He appeared at her office on her 3rd day to review a venue layout she'd prepared. He stayed 40 minutes longer than necessary, asking questions that were occasionally about the layout. He appeared again at the end of her 1st week, ostensibly to sign documents his secretary could have brought to him, and ended up standing at her window looking at the city while she worked, saying almost nothing, which should have been unsettling, and was instead, somehow, not. She began to feel his presence before she saw him. The particular quality the room acquired when he entered: a held-breath stillness, an increase in attention from every other person present. She told herself she noticed it because she was trained to notice room dynamics. She knew that wasn't entirely true. One evening, 2 weeks into the position, she was working late on a seating arrangement for a high-stakes dinner when she heard voices in the corridor. Raised voices, which was unusual. She opened her door to find one of the junior managers, a man named Oh Kyung-min, standing in the hall with a posture that communicated both authority and a particular kind of condescension she recognized immediately. The previous coordinator handled this differently. Oh Kyung-min was saying, to no one in particular, but clearly intending her to hear, Director Han should consider whether the position requires additional experience. She stepped into the corridor. Director Han reviewed my credentials before offering me the role, she said, her voice pleasant and even. If there's a concern about the seating arrangement, you're welcome to bring it to me directly. Oh Kyung-min looked at her the way certain men look at women who respond when they expect silence. I was simply observing. I heard what you were observing, she said. The arrangement is finalized. The dinner begins in 3 days. If you have a substantive note, I'm listening. Otherwise, good evening. She went back into her office and closed the door. She didn't hear the rest. She was already back at her desk. But she heard, faintly, Oh Kyung-min's voice drop, and then silence, and then the sound of footsteps retreating down the corridor. What she didn't hear was what happened the next morning. She found out from Soo-yeon, who mentioned it in passing with the careful neutrality of someone delivering information they knew would land heavily. Oh Kyung-min had been transferred to the satellite office in Busan, effective immediately. Hannah set down her coffee. Director Han made that call? She asked. Soo-yeon's expression was perfectly composed. Director Han reviewed the corridor security footage as part of his standard morning briefing. She said. He found the interaction unacceptable. Hana stared at her desk for a moment. She was not someone who had ever waited to be rescued. She had handled Oak Young-min herself, cleanly, without needing anyone's intervention. And yet, Han Sung-jun had seen it, and had acted, quietly and without announcement, in a way that removed the problem entirely. She did not know what to do with that. She went to his office at noon. He was on a call when she arrived, but signaled with one hand for her to wait. She sat. He finished, set the phone down and looked at her. Oak Young-min, she said, was underperforming, he said. That's not why you transferred him, Abiat. No, he said. It wasn't. She looked at him steadily. I handled it. I know you did. Then why? Because you shouldn't have had to, he said. Quiet, flat, final. The room held that for a moment. You can't remove every person who says something I don't like, she said. I didn't remove him because of what he said to you, Sung-jun said. I removed him because of the way he said it. There's a difference. He paused. And because he said it in my building, about someone under my protection, and that reflects on what I allow. Hana looked at him for a long time. There was no performance in his face, no attempt to appear heroic, just the steady, uncomplicated fact of a man who had decided something and done it. Don't make a habit of it, she said finally. I'll consider that, he said, which was not a promise. She stood to leave. At the door she paused. Thank you, she said, not warmly, not softly, but honestly. He nodded once. She left. The threat arrived on a Tuesday, 6 weeks into her new role. She found the envelope on her desk. No name, no return address, slipped beneath her door sometime in the early morning before the building staff had arrived. Inside was a single photograph, her, leaving the Saiyajin Tower the previous Thursday evening. On the back, in clean printed type, step away from Han. Or the next 7 won't be blades. She sat with it for exactly 4 minutes. Then she walked to Sung-jun's office. She placed the envelope on his desk without a preamble. He opened it, looked at the photograph, and read the back, his jaw set in a way she was learning to recognize. Not the hardening that came before anger, but the particular stillness that came before something far more controlled and far more dangerous. When did this arrive? He said. This morning, before I got in. You touched the envelope. Gloves, she said. I'm not new to this. He looked at her. Something moved in his eyes. Not quite admiration, not quite relief, close to both. He picked up his phone and made 2 calls in rapid Korean. She followed the broad shape of security review, building access logs, immediate escalation. When he put the phone down, he looked at her again. You're moving, he said. Excuse me? Your apartment. You're not staying there tonight. You don't get to. Hana, her name in his mouth. He didn't raise his voice. He never raised his voice. The person who sent this has access to this building or someone in it. They know your schedule. They know your face. They will not give you another warning before they act. Please. She had never heard him say please before. She held his gaze for a long moment. One night, she said, until the building access is reviewed. One night, he agreed. She was moved to a guest suite in his private residence tower. A different building, different security tier, entirely off any public record. Her apartment was quietly reviewed by his team that evening and found clean, but her building's lobby camera had been looped between 2 and 4 a.m. Someone had been inside. One night became a week. Living in proximity to Han Sung-jun was nothing like she had imagined and everything she had been trying not to think about. He was quieter at home than anywhere else. She had expected him to be the same everywhere. Contained, controlled. The temperature of the room calibrated around him. But in the mornings, in the residence tower's shared kitchen when they overlapped before the day officially began, he was simply present. He made coffee badly and didn't apologize for it. He read physical newspapers, holding them open with both hands in a way that looked almost old-fashioned. He noticed when she hadn't slept and said nothing about it but ensured there was tea ready. Small things, quiet things. They undid her more than anything dramatic could have. One evening she found him in the residence library with a stack of files on the low table beside him, working by lamplight, his jacket off. his concentration absolute. She had come to return a book she'd borrowed without asking and hadn't expected anyone to be there. She almost retreated. "You can stay," he said without looking up. She stayed. They worked in the same room in silence for 2 hours. It was the most comfortable she had felt in months. She told herself it was the security, the stability, the structure of being somewhere genuinely safe. She almost believed it. The fracture came from the direction she hadn't been watching. His name was Im Woo-jin, one of Sung Jun's senior lieutenants, charming in a way that announced itself too readily, with a smile that worked the room and eyes that assessed it. He had been polite to Hana since her first day, a little warmer than professional, a little more attentive than necessary. She had noticed. She had not encouraged it. At a dinner 3 weeks into her residence arrangement, Im Woo-jin sat beside her and was funny and attentive, and leaned a fraction too close when he poured her wine, and she was too tired and too human not to laugh at one of his better jokes. She felt the shift in the room before she looked up. Sung Jun was at the far end of the table, mid-conversation, and he was watching her. Not obviously. Only she, who had learned the specific frequency of his attention, would have noticed. But she noticed. His expression didn't change. His conversation didn't stop. His eyes moved back to the man he was speaking with. But something had gone sharp in the room, like a frequency just above hearing range. Later, much later, after the dinner had ended and the other guests had left, she was in the library when he appeared in the doorway. "Im Woo-jin," he said. She looked up from her book. "Is there a question in that? He's been attentive to you. He's been polite. He's been attentive," Sung Jun repeated. "There's a difference." She set the book down and looked at him properly. "Han Sung-jun, are you jealous?" He didn't deny it. He also didn't confirm it. He stood in the doorway with a specific expression of a man being confronted with something he hadn't prepared a response for. "You're in my home," he said finally. "Under my protection, he knows that. I'm not your property," she said. "I know that," he said. And then, quieter, with something strained in his voice, "I know that." She held his gaze. "Then what is this?" she asked. He crossed the room and sat in the chair across from her. Close, closer than usual, his elbows on his knees and his hands clasped, looking at her with a directness that was different from his usual controlled attention. "I don't know how to do this," he said. "I'm telling you that honestly because you deserve honesty. I don't know how to—" He stopped, started again. "You walked into a room and took 7 blades that were meant for me. I've spent my entire life in a world where people do things for reasons, where loyalty has a price and generosity has a motive. And you—" His jaw tightened. "You had no reason, and you did it anyway, and I don't know what to do with that." Hana looked at this man, this feared, controlled, powerful, quietly undone man, and felt something shift behind her ribs. "I told you," she said softly. "I don't know why I did it either." "Maybe," he said. "That's the point." The attack came without warning, as attacks from this world always do. It was a Thursday evening. Hana was leaving the Saiyajin Tower late, cleared by security, with a 2-man escort as was standard. She was thinking about the weekend, about calling her sister in Lagos, about whether the gardenias in her suite needed water. The car that came from the side street moved fast and wrong. Her escorts reacted in seconds, pushing her back, drawing, shouting into radios. But there were 4 of them against 2, and in the chaos of the blocked street, one of the opposing men got through the gap and grabbed her arm. She fought. Hard. She had been taking self-defense sessions quietly for 3 weeks, ever since the envelope, and she used what she knew, elbow to throat, heel to instep, turning into the grip instead of pulling away from it. She bought herself 6 seconds before his partner caught her other arm. She heard the sound before she saw him. Han Sung-jun arrived from the building entrance at a run, which she had never seen him do, had never imagined him doing, with 2 of his inner security team behind him, and the next 30 seconds were the most controlled violence she had ever witnessed. Precise, economical, devastating. He moved through the men who had her like he was solving a problem he had already solved 100 times, and she was free before she had fully processed that he was there. He caught her before she stumbled, both hands on her arms, turning her to face him, his eyes doing that rapid inventory, face, throat, hands, side. "I'm fine," she said. Her voice was steady. Her hands were shaking. He looked at her shaking hands and then at her face, and something happened in his expression that she had never seen there before. Not the controlled warmth of the man who sent gardenias. Not the guarded tension of the man who watched Im Woo-jin pour her wine. Raw, undefended, afraid. "You're bleeding," he said. Her arm, old sutures partially torn in the fight. "It's minor," she said. He didn't let go of her. "Sung-jun," she said quietly. "Give me a moment," he said. His voice was rough. "Just give me a moment." She did. Back in the residence tower, in the quiet of the library, while his doctor rebandaged her arm, she watched him stand at the window with his back to her, hands in his pockets, shoulders carrying the weight of the evening. When the doctor left, she went to him. "This isn't your fault," she said. "They came for you because of me," he said. "They came for me because someone is threatened by you," she said. "That's different." He turned. The window light was behind him, his face in shadow, and she could see the effort it was costing him to stay in the controlled register he lived in, to not let the evening break through the surface. "I can't keep you safe like this," he said. "You should go. Leave Seoul. I'll arrange money, a new position somewhere, documents, whatever you need. You'll be untouchable if you're not near me." She stared at him. "You're trying to send me away," she said. "I'm trying to keep you alive. By removing me from your life." "Yes," he said, blunt, honest, desperate. She stepped closer. He didn't move. "Han Sung-jun," she said, her voice low. "I took 7 blades for you on a night I didn't even know your name. I'm not going anywhere because someone is afraid of what you represent. That's not how I'm built." He looked at her for a long moment. The control he usually wore like armor was absent. Just him. "Just this. You terrify me," he said. The quietest thing she had ever heard him say. "Good," she said. "You've been terrifying everyone else for years. It's someone's turn." Something broke open in his face. Not fully, not dramatically, but enough. He reached up slowly, as if giving her every opportunity to step back, and when she didn't, his hand came to rest against her cheek, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw with a gentleness so out of proportion to everything she knew about him that it stopped her breath. "Stay," he said, not a command this time, an offering, a surrender. "I'm already here," she said. The distance between them closed. The next morning she woke before he did. She lay in the soft gray pre-dawn light of the residence, listening to the city 40 floors below, and understood, clearly, quietly, with no drama, that everything had changed. And then the fear arrived. Not of him, not of what had happened, but after. In the morning he woke up clear-headed and remembered who he was and what his world required. The moment when Han Sung-jun, who had never needed anyone, decided that needing someone was a liability he couldn't afford. She was out of the room before 6. She left a note, not cold, not dramatic, just, "Thank you for last night, for all of it. I need some space to think. Please don't send anyone after me." She knew, even as she wrote it, that he would not respect that last part. She was right. She had been in her original apartment for exactly 3 hours. Her building security had been comprehensively upgraded in the weeks prior. When Soo-yeon called. "He's not going to force anything," Soo-yeon said, without preamble. "But he would like you to know that he's been awake since he found your note, and that he has canceled all of this morning's meetings, which he has never done for any reason, and that he is—" Her pause was exquisitely timed, not handling it well. Hana sat on her couch. "He sent you to tell me this," she said. "He told me to check that you arrived safely," Soo-yeon said. "Everything else is my personal observation. I've worked for him for 9 years. I've never seen him cancel a meeting." Hana closed her eyes. "Tell him I'm safe," she said. "He'd rather hear it from you," Soo-yeon said. Hana hung up. She stared at the ceiling for a long time. Then she picked up her phone and called him directly. He answered before the first ring finished. "Hana," he said, just her name. The entire conversation in 2 syllables. "I'm safe," she said. "I know, I have people watching your building." "I told you not to send anyone." "I didn't send anyone," he said. "They were already there. They never left." She pressed her fingers to her mouth for a moment, holding something in. "I'm scared," she said, the most honest thing she had said in weeks. "Of what?" of you deciding this was a mistake. A long silence. Anna, he said, I've made exactly 4 decisions in my life that I was completely certain of. My first was at 19, my second at 24. My third was the night I built this organization. My fourth was last night. She breathed. Come back, he said. Not as a guest, not under a temporary arrangement. Come back as someone who belongs here because you do. Because you've belonged here since the night you decided a stranger's life was worth 7 blades of your own. She was quiet for a long moment. I'll need my own space, she said, my own office, my own decisions. Yes, I won't be managed. I know. And the gardenias need water, she said. I've been gone 3 hours and no one is watering the gardenias. She heard something in his voice then, the small, fractured beginning of a real laugh. She had never heard him laugh. It was low and brief and entirely unguarded, and it undid her completely. Come home, he said. She went. The identity of the person behind the attacks was uncovered 10 days later. It was not a rival family as they had assumed. It was a man named Jang Hyun-jun, a former ally of the Han organization who had been quietly divesting Sung-jun's assets for 3 years, skimming funds through a series of shell arrangements, and had panicked when a recent audit had begun to converge on his name. The assassination attempt had been his attempt to eliminate the problem before it could eliminate him. He had used Hana as leverage, assuming she was the vulnerability. He had miscalculated. The confrontation, when it came, was not a fight. Sung-jun didn't need it to be a fight. He had built 9 years of the most formidable private intelligence network in the city, and Jang's entire structure, financial, personal, organizational, was dismantled with paperwork and precision in 72 hours. Jang Hyun-jun was arrested by the National Corruption Investigation Unit on Thursday morning, on charges that carried a minimum sentence of 15 years. Sung-jun did not attend the arrest. He was in Hana's office, reviewing an event proposal she had drafted, drinking the excellent coffee she made, when his phone buzzed with the confirmation message. He looked at it, set the phone down. Done? She asked, reading his face. Done, he said. She nodded. She didn't ask for details. She had learned, in the weeks since coming back, that there were parts of his world she would choose not to enter fully, and that he respected that choice absolutely. What she had entered fully was him 3 months later. The city had moved on, as cities do. The Jinhee Group had hired a new coordinator for its public-facing events. The Obsidian Hall had been renovated, the marble replaced, though she privately knew she would never enjoy that particular hall again. Han Sung-jun's organization had weathered the internal breach and emerged leaner and more secure. Hana had moved, officially and permanently, into the residence tower. Her name was on the door of the best office in the private wing of the Seojin Tower. Her sister had visited from Lagos for 2 weeks and had spent most of it looking at Soon-jun with an expression of stunned evaluation that Hana had pointedly chosen not to examine. On a Thursday evening, she would always associate Thursdays with turning points. He came to her office when the building had mostly emptied and stood at her window in the way that she now knew meant he was about to say something that mattered. She waited. There is no version of my life that I want anymore, he said. That doesn't have you in it. He turned from the window. His face was entirely unguarded, the way it was only when they were alone, when the armor had no audience. I know what I am, I know what my world is. I'm not going to make it sound like something it isn't, but I will spend the rest of my life making sure it doesn't touch you. And I would like, if you'll allow it, the slightest roughness in his voice. I would like to do that officially. He placed the ring on her desk, not in a box, not with ceremony, just set it there, quiet and certain, the way he did everything that mattered. A single stone, deep burgundy, her color. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she looked at him. You're not going to kneel? She said. Something moved through his face. I'll kneel, he said. If you want me to. I don't need you to, she said. But I want you to know you would. I would, he said. No hesitation. She picked up the ring. She turned it once in her hands, feeling its weight. The real weight, the one beneath the stone and the setting. Yes, she said. He crossed the room in 3 steps, and when he held her face in his hands, she felt the tremble in them. The one he would never show anyone else, the one he couldn't hide from her, The one that told her that Han Sung-jun, who had never needed anything, needed her. She thought, this is what it cost. 7 blades and 3 months, and a version of herself she hadn't known existed. And standing here, held by someone who would burn the city down and rebuild it to keep her safe. She thought it was precisely, entirely, correctly worth it. 8 months later. The morning light was doing something extraordinary to the curtains when she woke. Gold and soft. The way light behaves when the season is about to change. She lay still for a moment, listening to the quiet city, feeling the particular weighted warmth of a life that had settled into something real. Sung-jun was already awake beside her, which was unusual. He was typically up before her, already in the kitchen with his terrible coffee and his newspapers. But this morning he was still, watching her with that expression she had learned to live inside, steady and wondering and completely, uncountably hers. "You're staring," she said. "You're worth staring at," he said. Simple. No performance. She smiled. She reached for his hand under the covers. "Sung-jun," she said. I have something to tell you." He looked at her, fully, entirely present. "I'm pregnant," she said. The room held itself. And then Han Sung-jun, the most feared man in 3 cities, the man who had never in 9 years of building an empire shown his hand to anyone, pressed his forehead to hers, his breath uneven, his hands finding her face, her hands, her face again, like he couldn't decide where the most important thing was. "Hana," he said, her name in that voice, the voice that was only for her. "I know," she said. "I know. I'm terrified," he said. "Good," she said. "Me too. Now we're even." He laughed again, real low, entirely unguarded, and this time she was close enough to feel it as well as hear it, and she thought, This is the thing she had stepped in front of a man to protect before she ever knew what it was. This life, this specific, improbable, magnificent life. Outside, Seoul was waking up. Below, the city moved in its relentless, indifferent current. Up here, inside the warm light of a Thursday morning, Hana and Han Sung-jun held on. To each other. To the future they had no business having managed to build. And it was enough. It was everything. If this story found its way into your heart, you already know where to go. Come back to Afro-Korean love drama, where every story is a world worth falling into, and love always finds the ones brave enough to reach for it. Like, share, and let us know in the comments. Would you have stepped in front of those blades? We're waiting for you in the next story.